Hello, cats and kittens. Orewa Jose Yoroshku. I'm back in the Crisis Corner for the second half of the creator commentary on Shonen Double Feature Issue 1, as promised. The first half of this creator commentary, of course, dealt with Lightning Rod's first issue, which was Welcome to Crimson. It was a one-off, just a single issue one-off to get you started, acquainted with Lightning Rod. Welcome to Crimson, 24-page story, fine. The Brooklyn Blur half of Shonen Double Feature, number 1, is entitled Opening Day. And as with Lightning Rod, it's an introduction to the character, but it's done in a different format. The Lightning Rod's his introduction came in way of a battle against Babe Jr. Again, a recurring villain, so to speak, and a pain in his neck, but a recurring villain and a running gag nonetheless. With Blur, I started her out with someone who will be, in the long run, a prominent villain, and honestly, someone that's out of her class. She's 1 year into being the Brooklyn Blur. She's been fighting crime for 1 year, and the person that she's going up against, Madam Frost, is a veteran, a major international criminal, extremely powerful, completely out of her league. And if you're going to start off with sometimes you got to start with a bang, But it's interesting that pace-wise, I wanted Blur's opening to be slower because we're coming off of a battle with Lightning Rod. But at the same time, there's a lot of exposition that does have to be done. But I always try to make exposition entertaining to some degree. So, opening day. And again, a major theme with both of these characters is baseball. I'm a huge baseball fan. I come up watching a baseball bunch on NBC, This Week in Baseball, since the early 80s. I've been into baseball. It's just one of them things. Baseball is not as sexy a sport right now as is basketball, football, or whatever, but that's where I'm at, man. Washington Nationals, formerly Baltimore Orioles fan, but I'm with the Nets now because reasons. But like I say, baseball is a huge part of both Rodney Lake, who is Lightning Rod, and Daniela Haskins, who is the Brooklyn Blur. It's a huge part of their life, and it's integral to the story in a lot of ways. But we'll get into that. So again, I wrote the story, got an assist from Timothy Reaper, who's actually David Welcher, whatever. Art is by Jorge Correa Jr. And the cover again by the amazing Kanan White. But again, this is, like I say, Brooklyn Blur. Who is this appealing to? It's like a speedster-based story, African-American 20-year-old girl that's into baseball. If you're a 20-something-year-old African-American female that's into baseball, maybe this is for you. But if you're a fan of superhero comics, this is that. It's a superhero comic, period. All right, let's get into it. I got to flip all the way down to where her adventure begins. That's after all of this light. And again, there's a contrast here. Lightning Rod is a farcical superhero story. It's like I say, it's like a farcical anime. You know, it's that's what it is. Uh, Brooklyn Blur is more a proper superhero tale, and that delineation suits the characters because Lightning Rod is not invested totally in being a superhero at this point. Yes, he wants to defend his city. He's fiercely protective of his city and the people that live in it. But the concept of being a hero to, an actual superhero doesn't really matter to him, if that makes sense. Whereas Daniela is steeped in the history of the second wave, our universe, the second wave universe. It's history of superheroes. Again, in the second wave universe, there haven't been any heroes for 40 or more years. They've been banned 40 or some odd years earlier. And people within the universe look at the first heroic age differently. Younger folks may look at it with wonder and awe or whatever, but older, 30 on up, remember the incident that caused the banning of heroes and are still traumatized by it because World War III almost kicked off and that could have been the end of everything. So you have that generation gap where heroes are viewed differently depending on what side of the generation gap you're on. Daniela just happens to be somebody who looks back fondly at the first heroic age. She studied it. She's like a superhero historian. She's into it. And she wants to revive that golden age type mentality where heroes were out there to protect people. And, you can contrast it to the golden age and maybe like the grim, not even the grim, yeah, the the grim dark period of the 80, 85 Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen type situation as opposed to the golden age. She's in the current world atmosphere is more grim dark without heroes, but a police type state, and she has that romanticized vision of the golden age. And she wants to bring that back, even though technically she's an outlaw. She's a vigilante. Anyway, the framing device for opening day is Daniela recording a video to her older brother Ezra. And as we see at the opening, she's being assisted by her younger brother James, her younger brother and entrepreneurial partner. And another aspect of Brooklyn Blur is that not only is Daniela a superhero, she is also a comic book artist. Because I'm merging two of my loves, sports and comic books. So she is a writer for D&J Studios, along with her. She's a writer. Her younger brother is an artist, and they produce art either for album covers, blah blah blah, which James primarily takes the lead on, or write stories for comics, which they publish. So there's that. So that's the idea. And the framing device again is she's writing to her brother. Recording a message to her brother Ezra, telling her how she came across tickets to opening day, the Dodgers and the Giants. Now, I have to explain a lot of things, but as you can see from her shirt, let me enlarge a little bit here. She is a Dodgers fan. And as you see in the background, there's a little shot of Ebbets Field over there. So clearly, apparently, the Dodgers haven't left Brooklyn yet. But it's in the modern day. So the Dodgers apparently are in Brooklyn. It's not like it. This is what it is. We'll move past that for the moment. I got a little shout out to Mos Def right there too, because I'm a Mos Def fan. So I'm merging music, sports, and comics all into this deal. You'll see as we go along. So she's recording this message. Apparently, James hasn't taken the lens cap off of the camera. So they reintroduce the banter between the two. They are tight. They are tight, but as the older sister, she has a tendency to boss him around and just get on him, relentlessly. But it's a loving relationship. These two, as with Lightning Rod, family is a big part of both of their lives. And as you can see, clearly, as you can see from her, she has a bandage over her eye. Her right hand is bandaged. She's got some battle damage. But we're going to find out. This is a non-linear story. We're going to go back and find out how that happens. But we have the banner between the two, and she tells her brother Ezra she's apparently she misses him, and she's sending her greetings wherever he is, and she wants to tell her about her day. So, and then we introduce these tickets. She got tickets behind home plate tickets to the Dodgers game. Dodgers and the Giants behind home plate. And she goes into her spiel about the day. So we visit D&J Studios, where she works. And we're introduced to Antoine, the receptionist, who is he's a family friend who works at the reception at D&J Studios, and who she also, as we get into Daniela's personality, one thing I wanted to make clear about her, she's a perfectionist and she's bossy. Bad combination in some sense, but it's just she's a person who needs to be in control of her life, and she cannot tolerate ineptitude. She can love you to death, but if you don't do what you're supposed to be doing right, that's some of that I get from my little brother, my younger brother, he's autistic, but he can't tolerate people not doing what he perceives they're supposed to do, and Daniela has a lot of that. So she gets on Antoine, she gets on James, and she likes throwing baseballs at people. So the thing with James is he doesn't take much off of her because they grew up together. They know each other, so he understands her, little foibles and her little idiosyncrasies. He doesn't put up with it. So they banter back and forth just like her and James. And she likes tossing baseballs at people, who don't do what she says, as we will see. So she's on the phone, her agent, or let me see. I would say that this person who apparently looks like has a passing resemblance to a Gilbert Godfrey is her agent, yeah, or at least somebody that she gets jobs from. I can't even remember. Tommy Shiley, I believe. Yeah, Shiley is his last name. Anyway, he has a job for her. Yeah, Tommy has a job for her, which is basically to make an album cover for this band, this rap outfit called the Bling Boys, who I'm loosely basing. I'm not even going to say who I'm loosely basing them on because I might get in trouble for that. Anyway, they're a washed up crew that's trying to make a comeback. He says, look, make a album cover for them because D&J Studios is known. It's a known entity, and they produced a comic called Kurt Crenshaw and the Zombie Pimps. It's like an indie title that apparently did very well. These artists likely read it, and they're like, "Oh man, could you get them to do a album cover for us?" And Shiley's bringing that to her attention. She's like, "You got to hit my mark. You got to hit my. I got to get my money. What you gonna give me?" She says, so he's like, "I'll go over your rate, and I'll throw in these tickets to the game." And then she's like, "Yeah, okay, fine." All the while she's trying to wake up her brother who's asleep because she's been working him like a taskmaster and fell asleep, she throws baseballs at him and wakes him up to get him to go back to work. And this is, it's a very talky scene, as you can see from the page. There's a lot of words on here, but most of it is music because while Shiley's on the phone, hiding under his desk, trying to speak to Daniela, the Bling Boys are rapping. I had to write the rap too, so that was kind of fun. They're rapping and carrying on, and the girls is in there tweaking, and he's like, just trying to get them out of his office so that he can, get this deal done and carry on business. It reads, or it flows better in an anime or live action because it's very busy. It's a very busy scene. In the end, the deal is made. Okay, we'll produce all right, you give me the tickets and cover my fees, it's all good. So we switch back to the video. We're going back and forth. This is the bit where she's making the deal is a flashback. We back to the present. She's speaking to Ezra again, and she's explaining to him how, the process of getting things done. She basically had to stuff James with no dose until, he was begging for an ambulance. She was like, nah, get back to work, whatever. Then we cut into James, who is furious that, she had to go to such extreme measures and nearly cost him his life, so to speak. I'm exaggerating. Well, I'm exaggerating a little bit. And so we get to see them bicker. We get to see them, go back and forth. But in fact, then Danny finally starts, giving the man his props because she was like, his art is outstanding, and she tells him so. And she loves him. She genuinely loves her brother, even though she treats him like crap sometimes. And he gives him respect, and he's like, all right, cool, whatever. So they get back to the story. She goes back to telling the story. Rockefeller Plaza, the news team is on there. Somebody that looks, suspiciously like Matt Lauer and homegirl Ann, what's her name, that used to be on Today's Show. They're at Rockefeller Plaza for the Bling Boys concert sponsored by Valley Frost, which you could say is a stand-in for Mountain Dew. The plaza's filled with people, and they're there to see the Bling Boys. There's more dialogue, which I can't get into right now. It's actually a pretty funny scene that I'm quite proud of. This whole story I'm quite proud of, but you got to read it. So get your copy today. Anyway, I am come to Bling Boys in their zombie outfits. They have, because she's produced the art, and they put on costumes based on the art for the zombie cover. They're doing their show. Then all of a sudden, mysteriously, it starts snowing. And then the Bling Boys get frozen. What's going on? Somebody says, I thought they'd never shut up. And we see the eyes of the villain, who will be Blur's adversary. Blur, back at the house, having, put in another all-nighter and put James to sleep. She's watching the report of the Bling Boys. And this is actually a double spread page of the ice dome over top of Rockefeller Plaza, but you can't see it properly here. But the reports come in that ice creatures are decimating the Guardian agents who are trying to protect people at the plaza. Weird creatures of all different shapes and sizes. One of them looks like a hydra. One of them looks like some kind of something out of Starship Troopers, a giant man, whatever. They're attacking the people, and they're giving the commentary that the Madame Frost has taken over the plaza, trapped hundreds inside of a dome, over the plaza and demands that the Brooklyn Blur show up or she will kill them all. And and Daniela just drops her coffee and she's shot. That's Julianne Day. She's the reporter. Now, mind you, in the story, up until this point, you don't know that Daniela is the Brooklyn Blur. You haven't seen Brooklyn Blur. I mean, you could assume that she is going to be or should be the Brooklyn Blur, whatever. But all you know is Daniela is shocked. We go back to her reports. She has to explain to Ezra that 4 years ago, she developed these powers. So we see that she hasn't spoken to her older brother or been around Ezra for 4 years. Why? We don't know. We'll get into that at some point in the future. But she tells him that she's gotten faster and she's developed these powers and she's made herself into a superhero. So now we make the connection. Yes, Daniela Haskins is the Brooklyn Blur. And we see the crime scene where the people are hurt and the damage is all done, blah, blah, blah. And Guardian stormtrooper looking cats is mounting for the rescue of the people inside the dome. And then all of a sudden, this figure comes whizzing past everyone. I mean, and it's cool because, she comes whizzing past the barricades. You see the little kid who's lost their parents is crying or whatever. She grabs the kid and gives him to a police officer. Whizzes past again, all the little stormtrooper fellas, and shows up. And we finally get a shot of the Brooklyn Blur. Okay. Now, this fella right here, Walls, he's the agent in charge. First name I can't remember anyway. He's going to play into the second half of the story too because he and Blur have a not relationship, but they're acquainted with each other. And we'll leave that there. But this is the setup. That's the setup. So, and they're pointing their guns at it as you see it. So they're not happy that she's there. She's just there. And that's the end of opening day. The second half of the story is the action. The battle between actually Blur rescuing the people from inside the dome. There's action in that part, but yeah. So that's basically the idea. So, yeah. And then we get her wanted poster, as with Lightning Rod, wanted for violations of the McLaughlin Act, destruction of or accessory to the destruction of public property, and disturbing of the peace, which is basically to say the damage that gets caused when she fights bad guys. What else? Oh no. Her bounty, yes, which I love bounties. I'm a One Piece fan, so I love bounties. The Paranormal Protection Fund Program, United States Department of Health and Human Services, is offering a reward of up to $27 million for information leading directly to the apprehension or conviction of the Brooklyn Blur. So her bounty is significantly higher than Lightning Rod's, which again is going to be part of their rivalry. Her aliases are the Dodger Dart, the Indigo Express, Brooklyn's baddest. So everybody's got that. And then we see the wanted poster for her adversary. Aliases: Jackie Frost, Lady Winter, Colgate, Lily, Chili Chilham. What's her actual name is Jacqueline Nicole Chilham, aka Madam Frost. Wanted for multiple counts of assault, attempted murder, and murder in the first degree, second, and third degree. The complete or partial destruction of several Chicago landmarks, including, but not limited to, Soldier Field, 2002, Wrigley Field, 2006, Terminal 3 at O'Hare National Airport, 2008, and the Sears Tower, 2009. She's a load. She's a big time. she's a big time villain. What else do we have here? Her bounty. It says, let me gotta blow this up a little bit more. Paranormal Protection Program for the United States Department of Health and Human Services is offering a reward of up to $128 million for information leading directly to the apprehension conviction of Madam Frost. An additional $65 million is being offered by the Chicago Bears, Chicago Cubs, the NFL, MLB, O'Hare International Airport, as well as privately owned companies and individuals. So you're talking about somebody that's almost, pretty much almost a $200 million bounty. So, Madam Frost, not a joke. Another PPA posted. So that's opening day. Opening day is your introduction to the world of Brooklyn Blur, which encompasses baseball, comics, and music to a degree. It's about a girl who's fighting to protect her city, a girl who loves superheroes, who wants to be, I wouldn't say that she wants to be, she's got ambitions as being the greatest hero ever or anything like that, but she wants to protect the city, and she wants to be like those who came before her. You know what I mean? That's what she wants to uphold that spirit of the heroes that came before her, live up to that spirit. And what else would I say about Blur? Well, of Blur and Rod, we have not established the second heroic age yet. In Intrepid, in the SW, in the Second Wave Universe flagship title, Intrepid, the events that will lead to the second heroic age being born is taking place. We're almost towards the end of that event, which will bring heroes back. Once heroes come back, there's going to be a talent pool from which they're going to have to select people to put out there as examples of the second heroic age. If you think of it like in terms of baseball, let's say, if you're saying that, for instance, Jackie Robinson, you had to pick somebody from the Negro Leagues and say, this is the best example of an African-American baseball player. So you grab Jackie Robinson and say, this is who we want to be the standard bearer. All right. Now, in terms of heroes, your standard bearers are going to have to be, is going to be Intrepid, but you're going to have to pick individuals from the underground, which is where Lightning Rod, Brooklyn Blur, and some others exist. And you're going to have to yank them up and say, well, of everyone who was running around as a vigilante, we're going to pull some of them out and say, now you're established heroes. We back you. The government backs you, and you're acceptable. But everybody isn't. You know, some of those vigilantes are just lunatics that need to not be representing, you know, what is going to be the new standard of heroics. Blur will be among the elite of those who they want to put out there as shining examples of heroism, because she wants to do things the right way. Lightning Rod is an outsider who does not care about the history of heroes or, you know, being an example to anybody. He just wants to help people. How he does, he just wants to help people his own way. They're going to pick him for a different reason, which I'll get into later. It's a complicated issue with Lightning Rod, past and present. But these two, they are going to be, they're going to be huge. They're going to be a couple of the leaders of the they're going to be a couple of the leaders of the heroic community. Like I say, Intrepid's on top, and they're going to fill in the next levels after that. Matter of fact, Intrepid is going to recruit a couple of these guys. Blur specifically ride in a roundabout way. So that's it. Okay. So I'm going to stop here. Create a commentary on Shonen Double Feature. Issue 1 is here complete. We get into issue 2, the battle between Brooklyn Blur and Jackie Frost. And then the second half of issue 2 will be the madness of Rodney Lake in Lightning Rod issue 2, The Right Profiles. Until then, stay loose.